This is how a war between China and the US could happen today. It won't start with a surprise attack like Pearl Harbor. Instead, it starts with a message sent to every commercial shipping company on Earth. The Chinese government announces that all vessels bound for Taiwan must now stop at a mainland port for customs inspections. They call it a quarantine, not a blockade. It is a subtle legal distinction designed to paralyze the island without firing a single shot. This is the start of the Taiwan Crisis. Within hours, global insurance rates for shipping through the Taiwan Strait skyrocket. Tankers and cargo ships begin to divert, effectively cutting off the island's supply of energy and food. The world waits to see how the United States will react to this gray zone maneuver. If the US ignores the quarantine, they risk a collision at sea. If they comply, they acknowledge China's sovereignty over the region. If you're liking the video so far, subscribe and follow. The crisis reaches a breaking point when an American Arleigh Burke-class destroyer is ordered to escort a commercial freighter through the quarantine line. In the South China Sea, a Chinese Type 055 destroyer maneuvers to block the path. Both crews have their fingers on the triggers of their automated defense systems. On the radar screens, multiple anti-ship missile batteries on the mainland lock onto the American vessel. One nervous officer or one accidental collision is all it takes to turn a customs dispute into a global configuration. This is how the duel of the 21st century begins. Subscribe for part 2. The opening hours of a Pacific conflict will be defined by one brutal reality. America's massive air bases, places like Guam, Okinawa, and Canada, are giant targets. They are fixed, vulnerable, and perfectly within range of China's advanced arsenal of ballistic and cruise missiles. A single volley could wipe out hundreds of aircraft on the ground, effectively ending the war before it truly begins. But the US Air Force has a plan to counter this threat. They are reviving a World War II strategy known as island hopping. This isn't about landing troops, it's about scattering its most advanced stealth fighters across dozens of small, remote, and often abandoned runways throughout the Pacific. This is called the Agile Combat Employment Doctrine, or ACE. Instead of massing aircraft at vulnerable megabases, the ACE doctrine dictates that F-35s and other critical assets operate from lily-pad airfields. These austere, often unpaved runways are difficult to find, even harder to target, and can be brought online in a matter of hours. The goal is dispersion and unpredictability. If an enemy doesn't know where your fighters are, they can't destroy them. This isn't about survival, it's a persistent air power. An F-35 can launch from one remote island, conduct its mission, and then land on an entirely different island for refueling and rearming. This creates a moving, elusive target for any adversary, forcing them to expend vast resources, hunting individual aircraft across thousands of miles of ocean. Of course, this strategy presents massive logistical challenges. Maintaining a network of dispersed airfields requires rapid deployment of fuel, munitions, and maintenance crews. It's a return to expeditionary warfare, relying on small, highly trained teams operating independently in some of the most remote places on Earth. It's gritty, it's dangerous, but it's the only way to ensure air superiority in a missile-saturated Pacific. The next Pacific conflict will be defined not by who has the biggest bases, but by who can disappear into the vastness of the ocean. Island hopping 2.0 isn't just a strategy, it's the ultimate hide-and-seek game for global dominance. Subscribe for the next part. The first sign that the Taiwan crisis has turned into a shooting war won't be an explosion, it will be the silence of your phone. Before a single ship leaves port, the battlefield is already being scrubbed clean by invisible forces. This is the blackout, a coordinated first strike in the domains of cyber and space, designed to blind the enemy and paralyze a nation's ability to respond. In the high ground of orbit, the war begins with orbital ASAT weapons. These aren't missiles that blow up things and create debris. These are grappler satellites that simply nudge critical GPS and communication arrays out of position. On the ocean below, a US carrier strike group suddenly finds its navigation system spoofed. The bridge displays show them in the wrong hemisphere, while their encrypted data links collapse into static. Simultaneously, sleeper malware, planted years in advance, is activated within the civilian power grids. This isn't just about turning off the lights, it's about sabotaging the industrial control systems that keep water flowing, hospitals running, and trains moving. By hitting the grid, an adversary creates a domestic crisis so massive that the government is too distracted to focus on a distant naval engagement. The digital first strike creates a fog of war deeper than anything seen in history. Without satellites, long-range precision missiles become useless. Without the grid, the logistics chains that feed the military grinds to a halt. The goal is to win the war in the first 60 minutes by making the enemy's high-tech advantage their greatest weakness. In 2026, the side that controls the switch controls the outcome. The Taiwan Crisis proves that in modern warfare, the most powerful weapon isn't a missile, it's the ability to turn off the world. If you are an American carrier group commander in 2026, your greatest enemy isn't another fleet, it's the kill chain. This is a seamless automated process that China has spent decades perfecting within its A2AD bubble. A2AD stands for Anti-Access Aerial Denial. A zone thousands of miles wide where long-range sensors and precision missiles make it nearly impossible for a conventional navy to survive. The goal of the kill chain is simple. Find the target, fix its position, and finish it before it can fire back. It begins with a web of sensors, high-altitude, long-endurance drones, and over-the-horizon radars sweep the Pacific, looking for the unique electromagnetic signature of a carrier strike group. Once you are found, the data is instantly fed to satellite arrays that fix your exact coordinates. In modern naval combat, the moment you are spotted, the timer starts. There is no such thing as a fair fight when you are being tracked from the edge of space. Subscribe to Sword and Pen, where military might meets political power. The finish part of the chain is the most terrifying. China's arsenal includes the DF-21D and the DF-26, known as carrier killers. These are ballistic missiles that re-enter the atmosphere at 10 times the speed of sound, using active seekers to adjust their path in the final seconds of flight. Even the most advanced Aegis defense systems can be overwhelmed by a coordinated saturation attack, where dozens of these missiles arrive simultaneously from different angles. To survive the Taiwan Crisis, the US Navy has to do more than just shoot down missiles. They have to break the chain. This means using electronic warfare to blind the drones, hacking the satellite links, and destroying the launch sites on the mainland before the missiles ever leave the rail. In this environment, the ocean is no longer a sanctuary. It is a digital grid where the first site to complete their Geopolitics wins, and the second site ends up at the bottom of the sea. In the first weeks of the Taiwan Crisis, both sides throw everything they have. High-tech missiles, stealth fighters, advanced warships, they are all expanded at an unsustainable rate. But what happens when the initial arsenals are depleted? This is the war of attrition, where the real fight isn't just on the battlefield, but in the factories and supply chains of the world. Modern precise munitions are not mass-produced like bullets in World War II. Each one is a complex, high-tech instrument requiring rare earth minerals, specialized microchips, and highly skilled labor. The US and China rapidly discover they are burning through their stockpiles far faster than they can replace them. Production lines designed for peacetime efficiency cannot ramp up fast enough to compensate for the daily losses of multi-million-dollar missiles and aircraft. Subscribe to Sword and Pen, where military might meets political power. The economic fallout of the conflict spirals globally. Taiwan's silicon foundries, the source of over 90% of the world's most advanced microchips, are either destroyed or cut off. Global supply chains, already fragile, completely collapse. Everything from smartphones to cars to medical equipment grinds to a halt. Nations dependent on these supply lines are forced to take sides, further escalating the conflict beyond the Taiwan Strait itself. As the world drags on, the nature of the fighting changes. With fewer precision munitions, both sides resort to older, less sophisticated weapons. Casualties mount, and the will to fight becomes as critical as the military hardware. The global economy enters a depression unlike any seen in history, as trade routes are severed and resources become weaponized. The Taiwan Crisis is not just a war between two nations, it is a prolonged, grinding struggle for economic survival with no end in sight.